My first word was bird. That's what my dad said. I think I must have wanted to be a bird. When I come here, I want my footprint to be small. I want to be part of their world without disturbing it. That's really important to me. Almost like you were never here at all. That's what I try to do. I don't believe in chasing the shots, but I do believe if you're patient, the shots will come to you. The tide, the time of day, the weather, the wind, all of this influences where you find the birds. And of course, they have to be there when the light is right. I think that feeling of being right there with the birds is something I hope people get from my work. That essence.
Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the Your Town television show. My guest, Trish O'Keefe, a bird photographer.
Yes, hi.
Okay, hi, and you have an origin story that starts here.
My love for birds started in Carmel. And every summer, my twin sister and I would travel to our grandmother and grandfather's ranch in Monterey County, just over the hill from Carmel. And we would go out with my grandmother. One day she gave us each a $5 bill, and we could spend it on anything we wanted. So we went to Carmel by the Sea to the general store, and my twin sister bought a shell collection. And I was really mesmerized by this small photo of a pelican. And so I went over to it and I picked it up, and I just had to have it. I just loved this pelican. Got a little frame for it and purchased it. And then when I got home, I put it next to my nightstand for years. And it just always inspired me that I wanted to get back to Carmel to photograph a bird as beautiful as that pelican.
Now, your father was a wildlife photographer.
Yes, he was.
A noted wildlife photographer.
Yes,
So you had that background. So let's talk about getting the first camera and getting rolling at this.
Yeah, our dad was so wonderful. He took us on a lot of photographic trips. And so we became very familiar with the cameras and being with him photographing wildlife at a very young age. And then I really had a thing for birds. And I was telling my dad about that, and he said, well, Trish, your very first word was bird. And I said, well, now I know, because my twin sister and I were artists, little artists. We did watercolors, birds. In every watercolor, we drew birds and painted birds. So we just love birds. And I think the thing that really intrigued me about the birds was not only are they beautiful, but they can fly. And I thought, wow, I want to fly too. So birds were very intriguing to me.
And then you developed your own sort of language photographically with birds. So what's the genesis? Did you feel like you weren't getting what you wanted, or did you start having a vision of what you wanted, or how did it go?
It just came very naturally.
Uh-huh.
And from the very first moment that I picked up my camera, I'm shooting now with a Canon R5, it came naturally, and it was an instant passion. In Florida, the Gulf Coast, you can walk for miles on those beaches and find the perfect spot for photographing the birds. I would walk from sunrise to sunset, 6 miles a day, no problems at all. And I would, if the birds were in the water, I would lay down in the sand and scoop my way up to the edge of the water and start photographing them. And then eventually you just kind of slip yourself into the water, so I'm completely submerged.
Did you learn about photography and learn about birds, or what was the what was the ratio? What was the symbiosis of it? Or just doing?
Yeah, it was just kind of doing. I love everything about the sea, so the seabirds were a big attraction for me, and the shorebirds. Then the other place I loved to photograph was in the rookeries when they're nesting in the spring. It's a fabulous time to get those beautiful birds in flight. And they're quite impressive, even on a day like today. If it's overcast, white great egret against a cloudy sky is really ethereal and beautiful and really inspirational.
It looked as if they were models for you. It looked like you were seeking models. And they looked like they're, they look posing. They look like they're doing their bird thing.
Right.
And it looked like a dance between the photographer and the model.
It is. That's perfectly said.
That's how it came across, because it doesn't come across like you're a nature photographer. It has a different vibe to it.
Yeah, I like to capture something really special, whether it's the birds in flight. That's really special, and you have to track the birds. You have to follow them in with a long lens, and then you track them as they come in to their nesting sites. And then you get them as they're getting ready to land into their nests and feed their birds. So that's a special shot I love. And then the others are character birds, where they'll just be kind of hanging out on the beach, but they have this really great character to them. And I love to capture that. And I have some jaunty egret that's so fun. Really fun character.
Did it take you a while to see? Is your vision of what's going on get more refined, or was it always there?
It was there. It came very naturally to me, and I think a lot of that was growing up with my dad and his photography and watching him, but it came very naturally. And I just, I loved it so much. It's what I wanted to do every day.
Were you looking at other photographers? Yeah.
Yeah, I was inspired by
it was a study of photography as well, and lighting, and you're aware of all this.
Exactly, yeah. The one thing that I do before I go out and shoot, the day before I do scouting of an area, and I'll check the tide charts so I know the movement of the tides, the light, where the light's going to be right, and I like the early morning light and the late golden sun.
Sure.
Oh, the backgrounds are really important to me. I love a clean background, and I like to shoot the birds up against the sea. So there's this beautiful coloring of aquas and jade greens and turquoise. That's my backdrop. That's why the birds pop so much. And that's just something that I did. I wanted a really clean, crisp background so these birds could really fly.
I'm thinking it looks a little like fashion. It looks a little like acting. It didn't have the National Geographic feel to it. And I don't know if that's something you're conscious of or not conscious of, or if you're. It's very hard to have a voice in photography, because everybody's got a camera. There's a million photographers, and one photographer out of 100 might stand out, and and I don't even know if that many stand out. So it's an interesting game.
It truly is, and every time I go out, I capture something new and really just fascinating, because the birds are these sculptural forms, and they're just exquisite.
So let's talk about some of the highlights. So when you really know you're getting it, let's go through some specifics.
Well, I'll give you an example. La Jolla, they have a wonderful cove there, and they have these cormorants that fly in off to the cliff where their mates are, in these handmade nests out of seaweed. And so I love going there, because it's you can just track them going out to the sea and how long it's going to take for them to bring in their nesting materials. And then you just get in position and you start clicking when you see them come over the horizon. And and I'm right above the nest with the mate. So I want to get this shot of the wings out So I'm just tracking them all the way there. And it is such a thrill to see the shot that I envision in my mind come to fruition.
Do you feel invisible? Do you feel like you're able to make yourself invisible to them, that you're so comfortable in the space that the birds ignore you? How does that
During
work?
the nesting season, it's easy because they're really focused on getting fish and feeding their birds, and they're flying up and over you. But in a lagoon setting, I go out before sunrise, and I actually go into the lagoon before the birds arrive. So I'm just part of that lagoon environment. And it's the roseate spoonbills that are in the beginning of the Canon commercial. And it's a great opening. And I'm in the lagoon, and this flock flies in, and they're all around me. It is so exquisite, and it's so wonderful just to be among these beautiful birds that I'm just taking that all in, because that to me is everything.
So do you get lost in the moment? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that part of the magic, is getting lost?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and being so present.
Yes.
Being very present and just taking it all in, all this beauty. And I once had a dream about photographing birds, nesting birds, and I had all my camera gear, and they were beautiful, great egrets. And in the dream, I saw the birds up in the nest, and I wanted to go up and be with them. And I thought, well, I don't need this camera equipment to be in with them. So I dropped all my camera equipment, and I actually flew in my dream up to the nest. And it was, I mean, that's what it's all about for me. It's being among those beautiful, beautiful birds.
So how's your work seen and presented? Because again, it's photography's a many-headed thing, you know.
I'm actually in Gallery Sur in Carmel, which is just a few blocks away from where I bought my first small photograph at 5 years old of the pelican.
Wow.
And I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be
That's
great?
a full circle.
Yeah, wouldn't this be so great when I was small if I could be in a gallery one day?
Yeah.
Because we would go to all the galleries with my grandmother. That's pretty special. And David Portigian is the owner, and he's a wonderful, very spiritual human being, and he has always said about the two of us, we're birds of a feather, which we truly are, because we have, we have so much passion for nature photography. He has such a love for Carmel, as I do, and the surrounding area, and we just have this wonderful connection.
And then let's talk about you going in the water and immersive and being in the.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
The best day is when you're wet and sandy after a morning of shooting birds. And that happens a lot with me because I love to get into the water. And
You wear a wetsuit, or what are you doing?
No, I wear waterproof pants and shirt, and I wear aqua socks.
And then how are you protecting the camera?
It's just handheld.
So you're brave. This is crazy. Well, this is quite mad.
Yeah, that's why you have to see the Canon video.
Yeah, this is quite mad. So
the birds are already there, so you have to be very quiet and very calm, and you have to kind of really ease slowly to get close to them. And then once you slip into the water is very shallow, so it's not like I'm floating on top of the water. I actually have my elbows on the bottom of the sea there. And then you just start clicking away, and it's really great. And after a while, they don't even really notice you. They'll come right up next to you with a fish in their mouth, because I'll be out there for several hours.
That's being invisible.
Yeah, being invisible.
Wow.
That's really cool.
I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the Your Town television show. I'm with Trish O'Keefe, bird photographer, and this has been great.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye.